Welcome back. You're still watching Good Morning Namibia. The United Kingdom government recently announced that all Namibian nationals will need a visa before traveling to the UK, including to visit. According to a press release issued by the British High Commission in Namibia, the decision to impose a visa regime has been made because of the sustained and significant increase since 2016 in the number of UK asylum applications from Namibian nationals at the UK border. With more on this latest developments, I'm joined by British High Commissioner to Namibia, Charles Moore. Very good morning, Mr. Moore. Thank you so much for joining us.
Morning, Ndapewa.
How's your morning?
Not too bad so far.
All right. Perhaps first things first, does the visa regime apply across the board, including those traveling with a diplomatic passport, pardon me?
Yes, it does. Well, let me first of all say that, because I think this is a good opportunity to address some of the negativity around a visa regime, and of course to recognise and apologise really to the many hundreds of Namibians who travel to the UK and comply with our visa regulations. This is not a political decision. This is a border security decision, and it's something that we do across the world. Across the world, nobody is exempt, so diplomatic and official passports are also included in the requirements for visas.
All right. In your opinion, was this an amicable solution to the issue of the increasing Namibian asylum seekers that are recorded at the UK borders?
Well, it's hard to find any solution really, so this is our only solution really, because the problem is people turning up and claiming asylum. This isn't something that the Namibian government is responsible for. It's not something they can stop unless they prevent people travelling, which of course can't happen in a democratic society. So the only option open to us is to put another obstacle in the way of people trying to reach the UK border in order to claim asylum. You know, we warmly welcome everybody who comes to the UK to visit and to do business, but there are an increasing number of people, as you said, who are travelling to the UK simply to claim asylum, which really is for economic migrancy reasons. They're looking for a job, and at the moment there's no obstacle in their way of getting to the United Kingdom. So this presents another obstacle for them, and some screening, so that we can try to stop people taking advantage of the visa-free system.
All right. I mean, you did mention that there are so many people, but what number are we looking at?
Yeah. Well, as you said, in 2016 there were 27 asylum applications from Namibian nationals who were arriving at the UK border. Last year there were 651. In the first 3 months of this year...
Namibians? Only
Namibian,
Namibians?
yeah,
Okay.
yes, Namibians. And in the first 3 months of this year there were 382, so that was on track to be more than double of last year's arrivals. And so it's really unsustainable for that number of Namibian nationals to turn up at the UK border. And Namibia became the country with the highest number of asylum seekers arriving at the UK border from countries that don't need a visa. And so, this was getting unsustainable, and action was required.
All right. Now, for one to actually, be granted asylum in the United Kingdom, they need to actually prove why they are leaving their country. Can you perhaps just talk to us about the process of applying for asylum in the United Kingdom?
I mean, the process for applying for asylum hasn't changed through any of this. Asylum exists around the world to provide sanctuary and refuge for people who are fleeing persecution, famine, war, arbitrary imprisonment, all of these issues, none of which apply to Namibia. The UK, like Namibia, takes in many refugees who are fleeing such persecution. That's very different from people who turn up at the UK border and claim asylum simply for the purposes of entering the country. So the purpose of the actual asylum system hasn't changed at all, and we warmly welcome refugees from all parts of the world who travel legitimately to the UK with a legitimate reason to flee persecution. Namibia is a safe, stable, democratic country, There's no reason to leave Namibia for the UK to claim asylum.
All right. Apart from Namibia, which other countries were recorded to have an increasing number of asylum seekers at which the British government imposed a similar regime?
Well, we look at our visa regimes regularly, and at the same time we imposed a visa regime here, we've also imposed a visa regime on Honduras, where we were experiencing similar numbers of Hondurans who are travelling to the UK to claim asylum. Last year we did the same with El Salvador, which at that time was the highest number of people seeking asylum, and evidence suggests that this is a really effective way of either preventing or certainly reducing the number of people who are travelling for the purpose of claiming asylum. But it also can be quite helpful for those people who are travelling for business and tourism interests. I think over the past few months we've seen a lot of people in Namibia who are maybe challenged at the airport by the airlines to say, why are you travelling? And it's not a formal visa interview. They have no formal immigration responsibilities. And actually the visa system will clarify this, and hopefully you can apply for a 1-year visa, a 6-year, a 5-year visa, a 10-year visa, all of them multi-entry. So actually somebody can really only go through this process once, and then hopefully there won't be a problem for the duration of their visa.
All right. Mr. Moore, apart from UK being a visa-free country for many Namibians back then, what were some of the other contributing factors for Namibians to seek asylum in the UK? Well,
whilst we have figures for asylum seekers arriving in the UK, we don't have access to the data surrounding it. So we're not allowed to use, for data protection purposes, we can't categorize people who and describe what their claims are. However, people can simply claim asylum and claim they're being persecuted, but that takes about a year, more than a year, for their claims to be determined. And people can really, they say anything to begin with, a reason for claiming asylum, but then once their claim is determined and found to be false, as is 90% of the Namibian applications, then their claims are dismissed and they need to leave the UK.
All right. Now, at the beginning of the year, over 90 Namibians were looking at being deported or facing deportation, basically. Can you just tell us about the latest developments on that matter?
Yeah, and this is like a separate but a related issue, is about returning Namibian nationals whose asylum claims have been dismissed. And given the increase from 2016 up to the present, there are more than 1,200 Namibian nationals in the UK
More than 1,200?
More than 1,200 Namibian nationals whose claims have yet to be determined. And as I said, this takes a long time, a year, maybe longer, to determine their claims, because we have a huge backlog. We have genuine refugees from all around the world whose claims also have to be considered. And we consider all claims fairly, so we don't have the facility simply to say you're Namibian, you must leave. They're entitled to fair consideration. So we have at least 1,200 Namibian nationals who are currently in the UK awaiting their claims to be decided. And there are several hundred whose claims have been decided and therefore have been asked to leave the UK.
And how is that going?
Well, hopefully that should be voluntary. I mean, the idea is that once somebody's claim is assessed, and if it's found to be dismissed, we should ask them to leave the UK, and they should do so voluntarily. If they don't, then obviously we will need to deport them. We don't have a program of deportation for Namibians or for others. It's an ongoing situation. But what we are doing is we're talking quite regularly to the Namibian government, both in Windhoek but also through the High Commission in London, to make sure that the process of removals and returns is fair because there's no way we would want to send anybody back to Namibia if they weren't confirmed to be Namibian nationals. So we have to make sure that their identities and their ethnicity is right before we put somebody on any planes to Namibia. So it's a long process, and it's something that we're working on together. And we're very grateful for the support of the Namibian government in helping us to identify people so that they can be returned to Namibia.
All right. Perhaps your final remarks?
Well, this is a very challenging issue, but we see it actually as quite a positive issue in a way, because there's concerns about Namibia's international reputation. People are concerned that perhaps the imposition of a visa regime implies that our relations aren't very good, or that Namibia is doing something wrong. This isn't about blaming Namibia. The Namibian government's done nothing wrong at all. This is a decision simply for our border security. And also one, I think, which protects Namibia's reputation, because when you have thousands of people turning up at a border claiming that they're being persecuted by their government, these claims are false. And if we can reduce the number of people claiming that they're being persecuted by the Namibian government, which turns out to be incorrect, that's a good thing for I think, Namibia's reputation. And so, we're working together on this. This is something that we can do as a partnership. And so, whilst it's an inconvenience for genuine travellers, it's an extra cost, it's an extra level of bureaucracy. We hope that actually it will settle down. I mean, Namibians need visas for 127 countries around the world, including all your major partners: Russia, China, Venezuela, the EU, the US, Canada. And so actually we're not out of step with international partners. We're actually imposing the same conditions for travel to those countries.
All right. Mr. Moore, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we wish you all the best with the rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
All right.